Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And what a fun hour this was. This was a great episode of NXT. From just exciting in-ring contests, only one matchup to further the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, on tonight's episode of NXT, but then a hero's welcome for the NXT Women's Champion Bayley, which ended with a bombshell announcement. This show had everything. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, it's funny that we're actually right at the same time as the Trios tournament on Lucha Underground, because we've just been dealing with so much tag team tournament goodness between today and yesterday. I can't even handle it. It's coming out my ears, man.
I know, right? I know. It's a good time if you're an appreciator of tag team wrestling, like I think people know that I am, and I know you certainly love a good tag team match, so, it's a fun time. And then given, the setups that we got for the future, we even got some teaser vignettes for two women, one that everybody's already kind of familiar with in Nia Jax, and yet another teaser that we'll get a little bit into later. Again, this show just came at you with everything. I loved it, dude. So much fun.
Awesome. Let's get into our first segment.
All right, indeed. Heat of the night. I got zero complaints about this show. I thought everything was on point. Again, just a really fun hour.
Really, John? Really? You're going to make me be the one that brings up what happened?
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with this. You know what, Ashton? Honestly, I am going to make you do it because I already made it like a nitpick / kind of heat of the night thing last week. And it's still a problem here.
But it's even worse this week because they had a promo where they both said each other and their own names properly.
To put it in perspective,
the ring announcer even got it right, for God's sakes.
Yeah, to put it in perspective for everybody, in case anybody's scratching their heads, tonight, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, they said their own names in a promo they did, and they said them, of course, correctly, because if you can't even pronounce your own name, that's really sad for you. And the ring announcer, did the same. And commentary was still that so bad. In fact, even Corey Graves, who did well last week, was dropping the ball this week. Yeah, he regressed. So that really is a big problem, but it doesn't matter anymore because Gargano and Ciampa's dreams, they're over. So I guess we won't have to worry about it anymore.
I think they're still going to be around.
Well, in a kayfabe
they might
sense,
end up getting renamed, though.
Right, maybe. We'll see.
If they get contracts, they're getting new names. That's just what it comes down to.
Honestly, that's to the betterment of everybody. I'm not gonna lie, because they're not gonna get it right.
Yeah, just I hope Ciampa doesn't become Tommy Penmanship again.
Yeah, there you go. I do agree with you absolutely that they are sticking around, but in a kayfabe sense, we're not gonna have to worry about their dreams being mispronounced anymore because their dreams died tonight. So there you go, guys. That's really why I didn't make it into tonight, because I realized, well, it's not gonna be a persistent problem for much longer, but it really is something when even Corey Graves, who did well one week, regresses the next week. So yeah, mispronunciation's still a problem in NXT.
That being said, I do have another nitpick.
Okay, what is it?
Maybe it's just that post-traumatic stress from Raw, but I didn't like that we opened the show with a talking segment, with an in-ring talking segment at that.
Right.
It's just, there have been all these rumors about Vince getting his hands on NXT and talking about how, freaking main roster is going to, the higher ups from the main roster are going to start having more of a hand in NXT because they want certain people to be groomed, namely Eva Marie, and just the horror stories that are coming out. And then you top all that off with the fact that we're basically having a Raw open to an episode of NXT, and I won't even lie, my butt was clenched the whole time.
That's interesting. I'm glad you brought that to the forefront because, first of all, I'm not going to lie, since we're really being open and honest here, and this is always the segment to do it, it really does make me sick that with all the amazing female talent that, first of all, you currently have, and second of all, that's coming through the pipeline, which we'll get to later, you pick Eva Marie to groom to be like your next big thing. It does make me sick a little bit.
Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, we haven't seen it yet. We don't have proof positive that that's the plan, but all of the most prestigious, legitimate dirt sheets are reporting that. And by all, I mean literally just PW Insider and Meltzer, who has actual inside information with WWE.
They're reporting it, and Ashton, here's my thing. Like, I'm not trying to jump the shark. Please understand that. And that's why I'm doing it in this segment, Heat of the Night, where we air our grievances, whether founded or unfounded. Like, it seems like they really are going in that direction, because when you hear Corey Graves on commentary, and I get that he's the heel, but he's like, oh, she's been working so hard, and all these haters, and she's improved so much.
I mean, at this point, he might as well be JBL, because they clearly want her to come off as a babyface, and yeah, you have your heel commentator praising her. So
and
like, Eva Marie isn't just awful, but she makes everyone else worse too, because she's slowly trying to turn Corey Graves into JBL.
Yeah, it's bad, man. It's bad. And then when you look at this open, to kind of bring it full circle, and you talk about that upper management influence, the thing is,
this felt like a Raw open.
It did in a way. I feel like it felt like it had a better pace to me. Maybe that's why I really didn't take much stock of it. Because, again, and I feel like the pacing has to be better because, to be fair, Raw's a 3-hour program, NXT's 1 hour.
Right.
So
for every minute that goes by on NXT, it's the equivalent to 3 minutes on Raw. Would you say that this segment lasted 6 minutes?
It certainly felt like it, yeah. I wish one of us had a timer.
That's the Raw equivalent to 18 minutes, and we always complain about 20-minute opening promos in Raw.
Right. And, I like the personalities involved, and I liked what they did with it, but I feel like you could have achieved the same objective, which ultimately really was Bull Dempsey laying down the gauntlet to Tyler Breeze.
Without teasing an Adam Rose match.
I know. Like, we're already
so excited, and then they just snatched it out from under my feet.
Like, typical NXT, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ashton, but I feel like NXT, when they do things by their book, if we're indulging in the hypothetical that upper management is getting greater influence, they would have had Tyler Breeze and Adam Rose have their match. Tyler Breeze obviously would have gone over. Bull would have interrupted the celebration post-match, and then they would have squashed their beef, or at least started it. But here, it's like it all runs together.
Or maybe even they could have had Bull try and cost Breeze the match, and Breeze still ends up winning, and then Bull rushes the ring.
Right. Something like that would seem more in line with NXT, but here it all kind of blended together. Now, that's not me being critical of the segment. Again, I really didn't mind it too much, but I do think your concerns that you're bringing forth, Ashton, certainly have merit. The beautiful thing about NXT is that it's so different from the WWE norm that you really see on Monday Night Raw every week for 3 hours. I don't want to start to feel like NXT is Raw light.
Yeah, and I feel like back when within the first year or so of us starting to review the Full Sail NXT that kind of transitioned from FCW, I was saying, like, I wish that Raw would get written like 3 episodes of NXT, but I would never wish for NXT to start getting written like 1/3 of Raw. That would be awful.
Yeah. It would be. I think it would be just, oh my God, so cringe-inducing. But, they do the whole talking segment. Adam Rose, who, I'd like to see more of with this party pooper gimmick. I mean, everybody knows the ideal situation, revert back to Leo Kruger and make that bank. But, I'll take whatever Adam Rose I could get because I think he's just a great worker and a great performer. I feel like he was just an intermediary for us to get to the point of Bull and Breeze. Like, he's just that bridge. Nothing more than that. And I feel like that's such like a Raw thing to do, because normally maybe you'd have a guy out there, but then he's used at the expense of another person to make a point to a third person. I don't know. It just seemed like everything was kind of running together. And again, I'm not hating on it because I was fine with it, but I certainly think it adds an air of legitimacy to the concerns that you've expressed. So I don't know, maybe this is the beginning of the end,
And
I don't know.
Can I also say that I'm not a fan of William Regal coming out and saying, "You will be the main event"?
And why was that?
Well, I mean, literally at the last pay-per-view, they said, we don't put our girls in the main event. We made them the main event, or they are the main event, or something like that. Like, this comes off as like, oh, Regal's slapping that main event label on it just because it's kind of almost playing along with the Divas Revolution thing. But it's like, now It's like they've branded the Divas Revolution, but it's like the NXT version, so it's a little more legitimate.
Right. You know, I
just
see where you're
don't
coming
like
from.
how brandy and markety this feels. Like the idea that Regal comes out and he says, "Yeah, it's going to be a 30-minute Iron Man match." He said, "I dig that," but the fact that he said it will be the main event just comes off as really inauthentic to me.
Yeah, and that was the word I was thinking of that you really seem to be wanting, you know, from women's wrestling, and that we've really been getting from NXT, not really so much on Raw, even with the women coming up. It's authenticity. You don't want good women's wrestling to be just another marketing scheme,
Yeah,
you know,
because like
to the corporate figures.
it feels like something that would have happened on Raw. Like they aren't just letting the women be the main event and letting everyone else talk about how great it is. They're telling you, guys, our women are the main event. How awesome are we?
Yeah, like it's funny because it's almost like, and I don't want to turn it into a weird discussion here, so I'm going to try and contain myself and hopefully contain the discourse, but it's almost like they're trying to commodify feminism in itself. Like,
Yeah.
hey guys, you've got Ronda Rousey main eventing, hey, you've got Serena Williams, you know, tearing up the court. How do we profit off of this with our own women? Not, oh, let's let our women have their own talent shine through. Clearly, we need to get ahead with the times. We need to get our finger on the pulse. It's, no, how can we make money off of this quickly? I know. Let's call it a revolution instead of actually doing revolution. You know, and it is
Well,
weird.
I mean, that's just a massive underlying problem with the whole Divas Revolution thing on Raw, but I don't want that to leak over into NXT.
And that's just it, though, because I think the problems may be, like, interconnected, because it's the big problem on Raw. It could trickle down to NXT.
Yeah.
You know, just like you were talking about with the talking segment.
And I think it all kind of started with, like, the idea that Stephanie McMahon has to introduce it on NXT TakeOver Brooklyn.
Oh, God. And do I want to say this here? Because, like, again, I don't want this to turn into a rant that we don't even recognize.
Go ahead, dude.
Like,
our NXT reviews, if nothing else, our NXT reviews are consistently shorter than pretty much any other review we do. So just go.
But I feel like, you know, and I hear this complaint from people too. I read a column. I wish I could remember the author because I was like giving proper credit, but it was on No DQ. And the title of the article I could tell you was "The Authority Always Wins," and it's just pretty much about how Stephanie and Triple H, they always have to make things about them.
Yeah.
And I hated how Stephanie, like, I accepted it because I'm like, fine, it's a story.
Even the New Day on Monday, John.
Yeah, like, it's always got to be about them. They've always got to get in on it, and that's why, like, for those that have watched our Lucha Underground rewatch, our latest episode, there was a point where I was getting ready to talk about Vince McMahon. Well, my point was the guy was willing to take things on the chin, to have his ego be bruised. These guys, and Stephanie, and to an extension Triple H, even though he has done amazing things for NXT, and I'm not trying to take that away from him, they're always looking for their egos to be fed. And more so on Stephanie, because the focus is the women right now. Like, why do you have to be the epicenter of this revolution? Like, you're making the Bella's life hell. Like, you're doing this good deed. When the women in NXT were busting their asses, outworking the men, and really everybody in general, you know, screw gender for this conversation, and just having the best matches. And yet you want to come in and be like, oh, well, I'm ready to make a change. Well, it's about damn time. Thank you for getting off your ass with your board meeting and signing a few papers and getting the thing moving, you know? And, like, that's what kind of ticks me off. And now if they're going to take it to NXT and be like, okay, we really need to emphasize how far women have come and, like, put them in the main event, shouldn't their ability just speak for itself?
And dude, I think the crappy part is, like, it's for the longest time now on NXT, for over a year now, they've been having the Divas Revolution. Like, it's been happening on NXT. No one's ever said anything about it except for the people that watch it and love it and talk about it. Granted, we don't label it so that you can't freaking market it, but, like, they've been having, in essence, a Divas Revolution. The women have been putting on better matches than the men, I would argue, since at least, like, February of last year, right?
Right, yeah.
And now, all of a sudden, on NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, Stephanie comes out and points out, oh, hey guys, I'm in NXT now, so I'm going to be the cool guy, and I'm going to point out how the women on NXT have been having this revolution for way longer than it's ever been on Raw, because I'm cool now. And now it's like, okay, it's so meta, because now not only are they outwardly acknowledging that the women in NXT put on amazing matches and outwork the men sometimes, but they're taking it a step further and they're using the acknowledgement of it to try and push it as an entity.
Yeah, it's funny, Ashton, because for the longest time with NXT in general, you and I have always had this tendency, as have many others, to make NXT distinct from the rest of the WWE conglomerate.
You know what it is, John?
What is it?
Do you remember when Lucha Underground first started, how angry we would get at Stryker for being like, oh, we aren't marketing this towards the kids here, or talking about how, oh, there are other companies that don't let women wrestle men, but here in Lucha Underground, anything goes. And just like outwardly talking about stuff that we should have just noticed and let happen.
Exactly.
Or like ROH, when the wrestlers get on there, and rather than saying that I'm the best, they say Ring of Honor has the best wrestling in the world. You don't need to tell your audience that. Let your audience come to their own conclusion. It's the same thing here. They're saying our women are the main event. You don't need to tell us that. If the women go on last, everyone that really is an NXT fan, because really the NXT fans are the hardcore fans, and those are the ones that would notice that, oh yeah, it's the freaking main event. Oh my God, this is awesome. NXT's amazing. But no, now instead they're saying, guys, we are making the Divas match the main event. Talk about how awesome we are. And we as fans don't like being told what to do.
Well, exactly, and it's funny, Andrew, because I think it goes back to even like the psychology of marketing. People want to be in on the best kept secret, and that was kind of the analogy I was getting ready to make. I've always looked at, with you, me, and other fans, when we make the distinction between NXT and just the rest of the WWE conglomerate, like NXT is just kind of like this underground thing that we're all a part of, and the women were one of the best kept secrets about it. Yeah. And now that more people are aware, it's like, okay, well, let's commodify it, process it, ship it out, and make it like everything else. Yeah. And I feel like for us, in an artistic sense, in an emotional sense, it almost becomes tainted, because it's like, especially on Raw, maybe it'll start in NXT, but especially on Raw, because you see women like Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, who only a little while ago were having a clinic of their own in an NXT ring, and as good as they are, and we know how great they are, they're really getting the treatment. Maybe not, they don't look like everybody else, but they're getting the treatment like everybody else, like, oh, no storylines, just these run-ins, no depth, no anything. And I would just hate to see the same thing happen to NXT, or, in this case, we're really worried about just this hyper-marketed, hyper-advertised kind of thing. Let it be authentic. Let it grow on its own.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of NXT, and then, like, even, I feel like Triple H has even basically come right out and said they want NXT to have that, like, mid-90s ECW feel. And I don't think that they would admit this one, but they basically want NXT to be their own alternative. They want NXT to be ROH with better production value. And even though they would never come right on and admit that, I feel like by doing this ultra marketing junk that they're trying to add with the women now, they're turning it into Raw. And I hate it. And all it's going to do is drive fans away. I mean, if we ever decide to stop watching NXT, we're going to also not have the network anymore. So I'm sure we're not the only ones that are the case with that.
Certainly. And you know what, like, I think what I fear most of all, and I'm not saying you and I would do it, but I could see, in my personal opinion, Ashton, some fans turning on the women themselves because of all this marketing, souring on them. And, that's really a shame, because you have a lot of talented women here. But I feel like, don't hijack a good thing. By it being organic and growing on its own, that's how you've been able to sell out arenas. That's how you were able to get the capability to tour. That's how Triple H grew the confidence to say, developmental my ass. Don't go and hijack it now just because you've decided to take note of it because Brooklyn was just insane and amazing and incredible. Yeah. Like, too many chefs in the kitchen, man, is never a good thing. And I'm so happy for women's wrestling, in NXT, because these women have been just busting their asses, giving everything. And I don't want to see any kind of influence like, oh, let's groom Eva Marie, or let's really push this, or let's really make it known that they're in this spot on the card. Like, let it breathe. Yeah. I feel like Bayley and Sasha are getting ready to do something amazing on October 7th. Let them do it.
I'm going to tell you right now, I've definitely got some concerns about it.
Well, you want to save those concerns for when we actually get to the segment, or do you want to air them out here?
Yeah, let's save them for the segment.
All right, do you want to actually formally get into our NXT review then?
Might as well.
All right, let us get right into our NXT review. And I don't know how much you want to talk about this, because we open up pretty much. Tyler Breeze comes out.
Right.
Feels like he's going to face Adam Rose.
And Adam Rose with his new party pooper gimmick that I'm actually really interested in and want to see him work with.
I love how, like, he speaks so slowly and he enunciates, like, every word. And it just comes off like funny, but like that awkward kind of funny, especially when he says, like, now I'm going to be pooping all over your party. And it's like, oh God, you really emphasized that pooping there, didn't you? But yeah, it's good though. It's good. Like, you know, I enjoy it. I'm intrigued by it too. And then of course Bull comes out. He actually gets a nice reception from Full Sail.
Dude, I can't even believe how over he is.
I know, right? I think it's great. And you know what, too? Like, and I know you and we had that, like, really intellectual discussion, you know, world affairs and just, like, popular culture and everything. And, you know, this whole thing with, like, Bullfit, I think it has its finger on the pulse, you know, with body positivity and everything else. So I think Bull can get even more insanely over with time, depending on how they handle this gimmick. And I want to emphasize, you know, handling, because that's always important. But, you know, he talks about, you know, pretty much to Breeze, do you think I was just going to crawl in a hole after what you did last week? And, you know, no, of course not. I'm here to, you know, come and just beat you up and just get my comeuppance. And, you know, it's going to be no accident. And you're going to wish it was an accident because I'm going to beat you so bad. And then he gets in there. And then, you know, Breeze is just pretty much like, oh, Bull, you know, that's not gonna happen. And, you know, then the champ breaks out. Bull is gorgeous. No, he's not. Bull imitates Breeze's pose on the turnbuckles.
To a massive pop.
Yeah, Bull is ridiculously over with this gimmick. It's crazy.
I honestly, like, I never would wish ill upon anyone, but I genuinely hope that that's just the Full Sail effect, because there is no reason for him to be that freaking over.
Dude, it's happening, man. We may have to get used to it. I don't know yet. Only time will tell. But for right now, I'm thinking it is the Full Sail effect, if you want my personal assessment. But, then Adam Rose is like, no, hold on here, because Bull's just telling him, you know, leave the ring. Leave this one to me. And then he's like, I'm not leaving until I poop all over his party for what he did to me a few months ago. And then I'm going to poop all over your party, Tubby. And then he slaps him in the face. And then Bull just responds with, like, these lightning jabs, tosses Adam Rose out, and then Breeze tries to get the jump on Bull. Bull reverses it, though, and then he sends Breeze out of the ring, and he just calls out to him, like, hey, come on, I want a match. So, you know, he's really amped up his Bull. He wants to fight Breeze, and that's pretty much the segment.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what happened next then. And this was amazing. This, to me, like, when I saw this, I completely forgot about how just scarring it was that NXT opened up with a talking segment. Backstage, Tyler Breeze is obviously not in the best of moods. Interviewer walks up to him and gets ready to ask him a question, but Breeze shuts him down and says, I'm about to answer it, okay? And then he actually records a video on his phone, which the camera actually records Breeze's phone rather than himself. Accepting Bull's challenge.
Amazing.
This
Love
was
Tyler Breeze.
So well done.
Oh yeah, Breeze is amazing. I don't know where this program is gonna go. You know, I just hope that Breeze just continues to do interesting things, because I love the character, you know, and I never want its momentum to stop. But we know that it's gonna be Bull Dempsey versus Tyler Breeze next week. So there you go.
Yep. All right. So then we get our first match of the night. Ty Dillinger versus Martin Stone.
Yeah. You want to talk about over? Perfect 10 is money right now, baby.
I didn't even have in my notes though, and I'm so sad about it. But it's really over, but it's not quite as over as Bull Dempsey. Like, that's just embarrassing to even have to say.
Yeah. You know, I'm not even gonna like be me and like take the digs at Ty Dillinger, because I think if anybody knows how I sincerely feel, I'm happy for the guy. I mean, you're talking about the guy that used to be Gavin Spears, then he was Ty Dillinger, then he's Perfect 10 Ty Dillinger, and this seems to stick. I see a lot
You
in
skipped
this gimmick.
You skipped over Shawn Spears.
Was he Shawn Spears?
Yep.
So Shawn Spears, then Gavin Spears, then Ty Dillinger, then Perfect 10 Ty Dillinger is the actual timeline.
Is it? I didn't know. I don't know when Shawn and Gavin Spears were.
Gavin Spears was ECW. Was Shawn Spears like FCW, or how did that work?
Do you really think I know, John?
No, I don't. I don't even know why we're spending so much time on the chronology of Ty Dillinger, because the point is,
because he's worth it.
No, he's really not. But the point is that this gimmick. Oh, really? Okay. Look,
Are you the Miz?
The point is that this gimmick.
I just made your brain short circuit so much that you became the Miz briefly.
Look, the point is, despite the fact that Ty Dillinger is completely inferior to Adam Cole, this gimmick does, I think, have a lot of potential. Even, if he does call himself a perfect 10, which again is factually inaccurate because Adam Cole's a thing. And I do see really great babyface potential, in this. I mean, Martin Stone worked heel here. That's worth noting. And I feel like because of the Full Sail effect, you're not going to get people to boo Ty Dillinger with this gimmick. You're just not.
Oh, and by the way, he was Shawn Spears in OVW.
Okay, so the chronology was correct. You got OVW, Shawn Spears, ECW, Gavin Spears, then, of course, Ty Dillinger, then Perfect 10 Ty Dillinger. So there you go, guys. For anybody that was curious, there it is, all right?
You're welcome.
Oh, my God.
Speaking of Damien Sandow, he was working with his old pink tights and blue robe as a babyface at a house show recently.
Thank freaking God for that. Yeah, I was notified about that by our boy Gordon, and I'm just elated. Let's hope it actually freaking goes somewhere. Doubt it, but
it's WWE.
Yeah.
They screw everything up.
Exactly. But, I mean, Ashton, getting back on track in all seriousness, again, the potential that I see in the whole Perfect 10 gimmick. I don't think they're going to boo it with the Full Sail effect that we were just talking about with Bull and everything else. What do you think the ceiling is for this gimmick, with how over it could be?
NXT champion.
You really believe this gimmick can be? I'm asking you seriously now.
Dude, how is this any less worth being NXT champion than Big E's 5 gimmick?
And but here's the thing, I agree with you. I just want to make sure that you're being serious with me, because, I just want to know.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, dude, here's the thing. You line up every single performer in NXT right now, and you ask 100 straight women and or gay men who they think the most attractive male is on this roster, and I guarantee you Ty Dillinger would be in the top 5 percentile.
That's quite a statement to make. I wish we actually had those samples.
He's got the look. The point I'm trying to prove is that he's got the look.
Definitely.
He's got an amazing in-ring aura about him. He's got the it factor, to say the least.
Yeah.
He's got that charisma. He is a naturally talented improv talker. He's kind of got almost like that, I don't want to say Jim Carrey, but he's got the personality to work as a talker.
Yeah.
And he's wonderful in the ring. He's a great wrestler.
He really is. Look.
And to put the freaking icing on the cake, this gimmick has got him insanely over.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, look, guys, keeping it 100 with all of you and not busting Ashton's chops or anything. I think if I had one nitpick of this gimmick, and this is just me being honest, I'm not the craziest about the finisher. I think I
would agree with you. I think he needs to maybe demote that to just like a signature move that he does in every match to get the crowd to pop, but he definitely needs a better finisher. And I mean, from what I understand, for the longest time he was using just a running Death Valley driver. Maybe he won't be able to use that because Cena, but something where he picks someone up and throws them away.
I mean, I like the knee-based offense, and I think the only reason I forgive it is it's certainly more unique.
I could even buy him, you know how Cesaro does Swiss Death? Where he throws the guy up and then hits him with a European uppercut?
Yeah.
I could buy him doing that, but then rather than a European uppercut, he just does like a double heart thrust with the 5 to 10.
Right.
Just shoves them away and it makes them fall on their back. I would buy that more as a finisher than what he's doing right now.
Certainly.
And it would be more character-based.
Yeah, and I think that's my problem, Ash, is that the guy does, all this cool stuff. He did a unique submission to Matt Stone.
Yeah, I was just going to say, he needs a submission like what Johnny Gargano does in PWG. Or no, not Johnny Gargano. What Zack Sabre Jr. does in PWG. where he gets the submission locked in and then he poses. And Dillinger needs to do that, but do the 10 pose while he has the submission locked in.
Yeah, because I feel like he does all this cool stuff that really is in line with how technically proficient he is. So technically proficient, we call him, yes, I'll say it, a perfect 10. And then you get this knee finisher where, again, it has, like, a unique look, so I think it's passable for the moment. But if we're talking a serious NXT Championship push, which... Again, this is probably the most serious I'm ever going to discuss Ty Dillinger with all of you. I do agree with Ashton. I definitely see that potential there. That's why I asked, and I wanted to get it confirmed. But he's going to need to clean up the act just a little bit in terms of in-ring. Everything else is on point right now, though. I'm telling you, if you let this gimmick breathe and you let him just build, he is going to have a following like nobody's business, and they're going to be just salivating for him to get that big win. Guaranteed.
I wonder if he can pull off an octopus or if he's too big.
I think he could pull off an octopus. I don't think
because if he could do an octopus, he could do, like I said, with like Zack Sabre Jr. He could lock it in and then do the 10 pose.
Yeah, just something, because to me the knee just isn't working. And again, that's the only real legitimate nitpick I have.
I mean, it's basically I don't know if it was Eat Defeat. I think that was Gail Kim's finisher.
Yeah,
it was basically that, but even weaker because it's not the full impact. It's just the knee. Like, it's a halfway drop from what that is.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's such a shame that the finisher is, like, the only thing. Because, I mean, again, that's going to be the one thing that I think really sets out, at least in ring. Because that's what you do to end a match. It's what you do to get the wins. Because everything else about Ty Dillinger right now with this Perfect 10 gimmick just freaking works. And I'm happy for him.
You know what I want him to use?
What's that?
The Perfect 10 frog splash.
That would be something. Yeah, he could even go up in the air maybe and kind of like flash the hands as he's coming down. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. Because, I mean, we already have the 5-star frog splash. Why not just take it to the next level?
Yeah, there you go.
He jumps off the top rope, reaches his hands out, does the 10 pose, and does that. Then he does like the frog splash motion and lands on the guy. That's perfect for him. And he can do it. He's an insanely talented athlete.
Oh, my God, yeah. That's totally within his realm of possibility, without question. I think for the moment I can forgive it because it's just so nice to see him getting pushed. Because I think too often when teams break up, I worry, like, what's going to happen to the other guy. And I'm so happy for both Jordan and Ty Dillinger because I think they're both right where they need to be right now. And here's the thing, all of you Ty Dillinger fans, and yes, it includes you too, Ashton, I think you guys get the last laugh because Ty Dillinger is getting the singles push here. Like... Jordan is still being, I don't want to say flat out carried by Gable, because I think Jordan shows up to work and he carries his half. But Gable, I think, is going to come out smelling like roses in that team.
Nobody doubts that.
Yeah, Ty Dillinger didn't need anybody to carry him for this gimmick, because a Perfect 10 does everything.
Ty Dillinger already makes roses smell like a skunk.
Exactly. See, there you go. So he does get the win here over Martin Stone, and me and Ashton. Me and Ashton both see, I guess, very big things for Ty Dillinger.
Why are you saying it so begrudgingly? Like, if I hadn't shown such an early interest in talking about how great this guy was, you would be more excited than you are right now, and that kind of annoys me.
Let's just always be clear that Adam Cole was the original Perfect 10.
No kidding. No one's denying Adam Cole's greatness.
Well, in a way, though, people kind of are, because Corey Graves even said when you're a Perfect 10, you're better than everyone else, i.e. Cole kind of fits in that bracket, in that set of everybody else.
Cole isn't even acknowledged in the NXT universe, though, so no, he isn't.
Not yet, not until he becomes Brock Vaughn, and then what's going to happen? What are we going to do then?
When that happens, John, then I will back off on Ty Dillinger and embrace Brock Vaughn.
Unless, what if Brock Vaughn and Ty Dillinger team up?
That would be the greatest. I don't think that the world could even handle that, John.
We get on here and we'd be like, the next matchup, Brock Vaughn team, and then the brain would just explode and we'd die. Like, we couldn't even do the review of that match. It would just be insane. But no.
It would be like, the following is a tag team match. Introducing first the team of Ty Dillinger and Brock. Wait for it. If he says Lesnar, it's going to be cool, but oh my God. Vaughn headlock!
It's like, nah!
Pretty much.
Like, I mean, no, in all seriousness, like, yeah, Ty Dillinger has all the goods. Just work on the finisher, and I'm telling you, give it a few months.
I want you to know, John, and this is all your fault. Now I want to see the Adam Cole Bay pose with Ty Dillinger holding up his perfect 10 pose.
Oh my god, perfect tag team pose right there. Best tag team pose ever. Suck it, Future Shock. Oh, man.
And I do love Future Shock, but, I mean...
But Ty Dillinger and Brock Vaughn, though?
Yeah.
Come on now. Like...
I mean, it's context, really. I love Future Shock, but it's still in ROH. I mean...
Exactly.
Let's get things moving to NXT, brother.
There you go, man. There you go. So yeah, Ty Dillinger, definitely a big upside. Hopefully we see him in the title picture. I think my only other concern about that, which is no fault of Dillinger, I think if he gets the fanfare, he can overcome it. NXT title picture seems really crowded with those legit names, you know, Joe, Bauer, all those guys. I don't know where Ty Dillinger would fit in that scheme, but I think if you give him the time to build up his own fanfare and to let that crop kind of thin out, it could be an opportune time to really give him that push. So here's to hoping it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on. We've been on Ty Dillinger for a long time.
It was worth it.
Baron Corbin and Rhino have an interview. I love this because, you know, they kind of bring up that they're a tag team built on respect because they know what each other can do. Corbin, kind of playing up to his whole I hate indie wrestlers gimmick, says that he has no clue who these guys are, referring to Gargano and Ciampa. And he doesn't care, and that they're going to win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. So, good stuff.
Yeah, I love how they really just mocked the interviewer for and when they were leaving, they were like, worried. Whatever. And then they just walk off. So, yeah, pretty cool heel promo, very straightforward. And the more you can say,
would have been a better heel promo if they would have actually lost.
Yeah, but we'll get to that.
So then we get an amazing vignette, formerly known as Kanna, now known as Asuka.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Well, I mean, yeah, like the SUK consonant in Japan is like, you know, with Shinsuke Nakamura, Asuka.
Okay, well, I just got educated.
I mean, anytime you see SUK in Japan, I mean, obviously it's still technically a really subtle pronunciation of the U, but if you really just want to be quick about it, you can just kind of skip over the U and act like it doesn't exist.
Well, I'm glad you told me that now because I was getting ready to say Asuka the whole time.
Yeah,
you know,
like,
so
I'm sure there are plenty of people that say Sasuke when they refer to the great Sasuke.
Right. So Asuka is gonna be debuting next week. And this vignette was amazing. The hype is so freaking real. Hey,
I'm glad that she's getting pushed to the forefront too, because I mean, we've been getting Nia Jax vignettes for almost a month now, and we don't even have a date on when she's going to show up. And we've only known about Asuka since the first vignette that we got for Nia Jax, and that was even before we knew that Asuka was even signed. That was just like NXT, like, hey, this chick's in the crowd, and that was when she was still known as Kanna. And now, boom, vignette, she's going to be here next week.
First of all, I got to give credit to my co-owner and commentary Ashton here because I have to agree with his assessment of Nia Jax. He said that he thinks she's going to be debuting at the next Takeover special. So I would agree with that.
It's entirely possible. Maybe they'll throw her in there with the girl that Bayley fought tonight.
Maybe, but back to Asuka. First of all, I have to say, shout out to our boy Anthony, who was so excited about Kanna signing. Sent me an article, posted on Bleed Up, like he is so hyped for this. So I can imagine he'll have his eyes glued next week to NXT, as we all will. I watched a few highlight videos of her, immensely talented. I'm so looking forward to this. And I gotta tell you, I don't know. And see, that's what kind of scares me, because I don't know how fast or how far they're going to push Asuka now that she's here in NXT. I would love to see her work a match with Bayley as the champion. I'm concerned she may be working that match with Eva Marie. I wouldn't be so concerned if it was Nia Jax. There's a lot of intrigue in the NXT Women's Championship picture right now, in a lot of good ways, and in some ways that kind of make your butt clench a little bit, not gonna lie. But I just want to enjoy the ride for as long as we can. And this vignette just gave me chills, and it made me just forget for a brief moment that Dana Brooke and Eva Marie are things, that are problems in this division that need to be, kind of massaged out and fixed.
Taken care of.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm so stoked for this, dude. I can't wait.
Yeah, I love that even though there are these rumors that Eva Marie is going to get pushed to the moon, I love that what we're actually seeing is the talents given spotlight.
Yeah.
Because
Definitely.
we already know Asuka is going to be on next week. We've seen Peyton Royce and Billie Kay a bunch of times over the last month or so since NXT Takeover Brooklyn. And I mean, it really kind of does come back to, I want to continue to have faith in NXT to do what is, best for business rather than doing what the main roster thinks is best for business.
Exactly. Do what's right. You've got this amazing talent here.
I intentionally danced around using the word right because it's so subjective. So yeah, I mean, go ahead. What you were saying.
It's true. Yeah. It's true that it is very subjective, but I think NXT knows what their parameter for right is. What their parameter for right is what made them sell out Brooklyn.
Yes,
just keep doing your thing.
Yep.
Yeah, just keep doing your thing. So, what came after this, brother?
After the Asuka vignette, we had our second match of the night, and I loved this too. Apollo Crews versus Solomon Crowe.
This was a fun matchup, man. I was even saying to you, in the early goings of it, that I hoped Crowe would turn heel because he definitely showed very aggressive tendencies in this match that I really enjoyed. Yeah. He even pulled out a Fit Finlay and he used the ring apron or the ring curtain.
That. He really did come off as a heel tonight.
Yeah, and that's where he needs to be, man. Crowe works so much better as a heel than as a babyface. Again, guys, I watched Callahan a lot in Force 1. He was like the champion there. He ran his own faction as a heel. The guy's amazing in that role. And it was so great to see him in his element. And great back and forth match. This is what I've been waiting for Crews, to really get extended time in that ring, to really play up the babyface like I'm struggling against something. And Crowe, I think, was the perfect opposition for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Crowe working as a heel is something that we needed in NXT because, as far as the male wrestlers go, I feel like we really don't have any really legitimate top heels right now. And I'm not saying that Solomon Crowe is necessarily going to be that guy, even in the long run, but it's good to know that we have a guy that doesn't try to get cheered and that just straight up kills people.
Yes. I think my only disappointment is a personal nitpick, not really more of an objective one. I wish there was a beatdown on Apollo Crews post-match, because he does get the win here after his Gorilla Press slam, and then, his standing kind of moonsault press, to get the victory there. And there was just no beatdown from Crowe after the fact to really solidify, I don't like you, and I'm sick of this crap, and I'm going to do my own thing. Apollo Crews just got to celebrate among his people, which is fine, but I'd really like to see a program for him in the future, and I really think Crowe would be the perfect opponent, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so now I guess we can move on. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa had an interview. They want to win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and they wouldn't be in NXT, or they wouldn't be where they're at having won the first match in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic if they didn't belong here in NXT. And again, both of them said their own and their partner's name each once. So Gargano said Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, and then Ciampa said Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. And it still didn't help. But this was still a solid interview. I can't help but be engaged every time Tommaso Ciampa talks. He's such a good natural talker.
Yeah, I love the confidence that these two spoke with. I love that these guys weren't like the meek newcomers or they're all scrappy and this and that. I love the one line. I think it came from Gargano where he said, "Us being here is no accident."
Yeah.
I love that line. I thought that really summed it up for them. So yeah, this is a great promo, and it really just got me hyped up for their match.
Absolutely. The match ended up being solid, and actually, you know what? I'm not even going to try and cut that off because I think their match was great, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. For now, though, let's talk about this, the second interview, this time with Emma and Dana Brooke. John, I know that you had a particular bone to pick with this interview, so I'm going to let you take this.
Oh, God. Guys, first of all, it was great to hear my estranged wife speak, about the issues, concerning her, saying all the new talent come in because nobody, should be trying to take her spot. But, my big problem doesn't even come with Emma. She did the role of the heel. Dana Brooke once again. And, I get it. She's trying to play the heel, this and that. But I facepalm so
hard. Why is
hard
she
when she had the
suddenly
line.
trying to play the heel now when literally last week she wanted people to get behind her?
Dude, I don't know. It boggles my mind. It frustrates me to no end. And then when she refers to Asuka and these other women coming in as, well, these newbies. Oh,
and of course,
God.
she had Peyton Royce and Billie Kay in the back of her mind when she said that, which is ridiculous because they're both billions of times better than her.
I know. It's like,
oh, gee,
get
John,
over.
What would you rather hear cutting a promo? Her awful Cleveland accent or that lovely Australian accent?
Exactly. Which, bringing it full circle, can we just acknowledge that the real victim here is Emma for having to associate with this as a heel act?
Dude, I want her to turn on Dana and join up with Peyton and Billie.
I know,
Australia taking over.
Dude, I'm telling you, I am waiting for the segment that maybe Billie and Peyton, they lose a match. Maybe they even tag together or something because NXT still doesn't know what to do with them, whatever. She goes in the locker room and she's like, okay, when are you girls ready to get serious? And then she just kind of looks at them and maybe it cuts from there. And then we get our faction. Screw Dana Brooke. You don't need this, Emma. You have a YouTube cooking channel that's going to thrive. You're being divorced from me, which honestly in some ways could be construed as a positive. And now you have this Australian faction. You don't need Dana Brooke. Screw that crap, man.
When did you guys get a divorce?
Well, it's certainly headed that way. It's over. it's over.
Well, interesting. I like the idea of you being married to a diva.
I did too, but this wound can't open up any further. So moving on.
No, I want to keep talking about your emotional distress.
I'd really rather not, Freud, if it's all the same to you.
All right. Up next, we had Kyle Edwards. Kyle Edwards talks about the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Round 1 and kind of lays out what we might see in Round 2. He talks about the matches that happened at the house show, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. And he does point out that next week we're going to get the Vaudevillains versus the Mechanics. And I will never call them anything but the Mechanics because Dash and Dawson are their names, but Mechanics are their tag team name.
Preach it, brother. But yeah, this was a great segment kind of recapping the tournament. I mean, they did the same thing last week, but I guess because we were just about to have another tournament matchup, it was good just to remind everybody one more time, here are the current standings. Now, there is a little bit of confusion I have concerning the next round matchup, but I'll elaborate on that confusion more in a few moments. But for now, this is a good segment. Let's move on.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused at your confusion and that you're not elaborating, but I guess you'll talk about it when you feel the need to. So, up next, we had our third match of the night, Baron Corbin and Rhino versus Gargano and Ciampa. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is how you pronounce it, Gargano and Ciampa, not Gargano and Ciampa. It's actually hard for me to say. The ring announcer said their names right, but nobody else seems to be able to. This was a great match, though. This was so much better than the match that they had with Dempsey and Breeze.
Like, if you really wanted to see these two guys, in NXT doing their thing, this was the match. I feel like you almost got cheated last week. Yeah. And this week, I feel like they really did it right. Everybody did their part perfectly. Ciampa did some really cool stuff. Like, he did a crossbody off the top rope that was really cool. Gargano, he came and he showed up. He had a great flurry of offense. They did their thing. The finishing sequence had legitimate tension, which I loved. And, this was probably the best match in the tournament as a whole thus far. And I really enjoyed Crowe and Neville versus Gable and Jordan, but this match outdid it to me. This was fantastic.
I completely agree, dude. This was so good. I mean, people, again, it's so funny. I am still seeing people saying, oh, Baron Corbin sucks. Samoa Joe managed to drag him or carry him or whatever you want to use to a decent match at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, but he's still terrible. And now we see again Baron Corbin in another good match that, I mean, are you going to seriously try and act like Rhino was the reason this match was good? No, of course not. Rhino did nothing but eat offense in this match from Gargano and Ciampa. And when Baron Corbin got in the ring, it felt like a freaking contest because Baron Corbin is intense and he sells well and he does enough freaking moves, you marks. I'm okay.
Yeah. And but no, everything you're saying is on point, man. I think Corbin plays his role very well. I loved how he caught Gargano, for the end of days. It was a beautiful looking end of days. Absolutely devastating. Pins Gargano. Ciampa tries making the breakup. He can't do it. He's selling the heartbreak. And yeah, Rhino and Corbin are looking like real dominant dirtbags because they take out the guys with a dream. It's really smart booking to me. Would I have liked to have seen Ciampa and Gargano advance? Absolutely. But I do feel like the smart decision was made here. Rhino and Corbin are the more established NXT guys. They've put in, more time there, and they are the heels. So, I think you definitely want heels to kind of dominate your bracket a little bit. So, yeah, fun matchup. These guys are definitely sticking around. If they wouldn't get offered deals, that's WWE's loss, pure and simple. These guys showed up, and this is an incredible match. Absolutely. Easily match of the night.
Yeah, I was even going to say, this was, match of the night for sure. I mean, admittedly, it didn't have a ton of competition because the other three matches, I would say the only real competition it had was Cruz versus Crowe. And even though that wasn't a full-on squash or exhibition match or whatever, it was still relatively short, like I want to say 5 or 6 minutes. Would you agree with that?
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, that being said, let's move on. Vaudevillains interview. John, take it away.
Okay, this is where my confusion comes in, because they're talking about how they're advancing in the tournament and how, they can't wait to win it and to do it as the NXT.
I see what you're confused about now. 2 matches next week, right?
Yeah. How is that going to work?
I don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah. I don't know either. But see, if it's working the way, if we take it at face value, I've got to be honest, that's some really cool booking on the part of, making your heels, Blake and Murphy, really seem like they have an advantage because their advantage is twofold. First of all, to finish up the Vaudevillains promo, they say, winning the tournament would be even sweeter as the NXT Tag Team Champions. And then I think it was Aiden that's indubitably. And I love that because me and a friend of mine used to do that same kind of shtick. So I'm totally getting the Vaudevillains. It's awesome. It's a good time. Then Blake and Murphy interrupt, and Alexa Bliss with her attitude, because she's just a disrespectful little wench.
Amazing, I said.
You're incorrect, I said. Yeah. But yeah, she's pretty much they're invoking their rematch clause next week, and seeing as how I sent Blue Pants back to that clearance rack, and that of course got a good chuckle from her boys. The titles are gonna come back. Yeah. I won't hold it against you, my friend. But she said the titles will come back to where they belong. And then Blake and Murphy tried to mock them for the use of indubitably, which of course, because they're Cro-Magnons, they couldn't even pronounce it, so they settled for the words idiots instead. The irony shouldn't be lost on you guys, hopefully. So yeah, Vaudevillains could potentially
because they're BAMF. And you know what BAMF stands for? No, John, not that. It stands for Blake Alexa Murphy Factor. But at the end of the day, they don't need big words to prove how awesome they are.
Yeah, they can keep telling themselves that. But it's
they're
the guys
not telling themselves anything. I'm telling you that.
Well, I'm telling you that you're wrong, because the guys that do use the big words are the NXT Tag Team Champions. So, there you go. And they're going to remain NXT. Forever and ever, 100 years Rick and Morty, forever and ever.
Forever and ever, Morty!
For those of you who don't watch that show and can't appreciate that impersonation, I pity you. Your loss.
Dude, even if you don't want to appreciate the impersonation, if you think it sucked, if you don't watch Rick and Morty, I pity you. It's amazing.
Yeah, so Vaudevillains really in a bind here if they're working two matches. Not to mention that I don't think Blue Pants will be coming back. At least I assume she won't. So how are the Vaudevillains going to isolate Alexa Bliss? Are they going to bring in a new woman? I was thinking maybe something would go with that Jasmine, what they were working at live events, but she got caught in a recent controversy recently. I think they're going to wait for that to smooth over before they do anything with her anytime soon. So I don't know what the game plan is here, but I'm definitely heavily invested in next week if we're getting a double dose of the Vaudevillains. I mean, hell yeah.
Do you really think that that's what they're going to do?
I'm excited, man.
I'm kind of concerned that they're going to just.
I
feel like they're just going to kind of shove the mechanics
yeah,
aside.
I don't know. I don't know, man. It's tough to. They could do that. They could do that, or it could be at like a live event or something. You know, I don't know, but. You know, if they are double booked, again, it's great adversity for the baby faces. If they're not, problem solved. We get our tag title match, and it's still really something to enjoy. Either way, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Hopefully, I'm kind of hoping for the double dosage, and not even just because I know you're a huge Vaudevillain fan. I'm not that super hyped up on them. I do like them though. I just want to see both the Mechanics and BAMF next week. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would be. Hell yeah, man. Three amazing teams, Vaudevillains, BAMF, and Mechanics. Hell yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. So up next, we get our main event, our de facto main event. No, we don't. I lied. Nia Jax vignette happens next, actually. And, yeah, I mean, this has happened a few times, so we don't really have that much to say about it. Let's move on. Dempsey versus Breeze is announced for next week, as well as the Vaudevillains versus BAMF, so we know those two are happening. And then we get our de facto main event. It's Bayley!
Yeah, Bayley comes out, great reception, celebrates amongst her people, and the celebration she does with Izzy, just so emotional, so wonderful. And this is coming from me, the grade A douchebag of the situation, the same guy that really laughs anytime a babyface goes through just excruciating punishment. But this was an absolutely wonderful celebration between Bayley and Izzy. Izzy got to climb in the ring, you know, with Bayley. They both got to pose with their championships. The crowd loved it. It was a hero's welcome for Bayley. Dude, this is NXT at its best.
Yeah, I feel like this is, you know, as poorly as NXT started, I feel like it closed fairly opposite.
Oh my God, yeah. I think the way this show punctuated itself tonight, again, it's just like, this is why we love NXT. This is why we fell in love with this. This is why anybody with any reservation, when they remembered that NXT used to be a game show or Gilligan's Island for pro wrestlers, because you'd have people like Johnny Curtis and, you know, thinking that they were never going to get off the show. And Maxine was the woman I was trying to think of, you know, thinking they're never going to get off the show, turn into something like this. You know, this is why we love it.
Hey, man, and Johnny Curtis and Maxine were freaking amazing.
They were freaking amazing.
Especially
but the
Johnny
idea,
Curtis.
you know.
I mean, Maxine is amazing now that she's Katrina, but Johnny Curtis, oh, man, I miss Let's Get Weird Johnny Curtis so much.
I had Johnny Curtis autograph my chloroform. Did he autograph your chloroform?
I don't have chloroform because I'm not a weirdo, thanks.
Well, there you go then. But yeah, you know, it's just anybody that's been through NXT with the rough patches, like they know, you know, they're here now, and they see the transformation it's undergone, and it's a beautiful thing. And to see Bayley celebrate with her number one fan, who's at every show in Full Sail on that exact same seat, is just the greatest feeling. And then her match with Sarah Dobson, not bad. Not bad.
Sarah Dobson, also known as Crazy Mary Dobson. She mostly works like the New England area indies, but she's like crazy. She's been in like friggin' death matches and stuff, dude.
Oh wow. Yeah. Respect. Seriously. But But yeah, not bad. I like the guillotine that she did to Bayley. I like the one move where it was kind of like a Carly and she just drove her knees into Bayley's back. Like that one move, I even said to Asher, was better than pretty much all of Dana Brooke's offense.
Yeah, and it's funny too because I even have in my notes that she was really good. The one little nitpick that I had about her work is that I feel like she needs to do some work on selling.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, I mean, frick, man, I don't know why WWE. I can speak. I don't know why WWE insists on hiring fitness models and trying to teach them how to wrestle when you could just hire wrestlers that are attractive. And Sarah Dobson is, and Peyton Royce is, and Billie Kay is, and the freaking Sasha Banks was an indie wrestler before they signed her. She's not a model, but she's incredibly attractive. There's no reason for them at this point with the amount of talent. Wrestling talent that's in the world and the amount of talented female wrestlers that live up to WWE's beauty standards, which, I mean, say what you will about whether that's a good thing or not, but they're going to have them. There's really no need for women like frickin' Eva Marie to exist in the WWE.
Certainly not,
But she has red hair, John.
All red everything. Good
That's
God, it's coming.
That's literally the only marketing aspect that they have on her. I feel like I want to ask Peyton Royce to dye her hair fire engine red so that the WWE management can fall in love and put a rocket on her back, because that's the only, apparently, that's the secret to success, because that's literally the only, not even joking. And normally when I say literally, a lot of the time it's an exaggeration where I would normally just mean figuratively. And I know that that's kind of where our culture is these days, but no, there is nothing about Eva Marie other than the fact that she has fire engine red hair that makes her better than the rest of the divas in WWE and NXT combined. Nothing. There is always going to be someone that's better than her at something, except for having fire engine red hair. That's the only thing that she has that nobody else has.
Which isn't really much of an effort anyway.
No, it's not even an actual trait. It's something that you do with chemicals.
Yeah, exactly. So, there you go there.
Is Bayley... she hotter than every other diva? Of course not.
Oh, God, no.
Is she, I would say more, but is she even as talented as any other diva? Of course not. Can she talk as well as most of the divas? Not really. Does she have more charisma than any of the divas? Not really. She's awful, except she has fire engine red hair, so let's strap the frickin' rocket to her back and push her to the moon.
Billy and Peyton will get their time. It just sucks that Eva's going to get her time, too. It really does.
We could always just hope that Meltzer is wrong.
We could.
And that's what I've been doing since those reports came out.
Or we could just grit our teeth and just bear the inevitable, because I do think it's coming.
If Eva Marie ever becomes the NXT Women's Champion, I think I'm going to go on an NXT hiatus.
You might have to. I don't know. We'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it, but the bridge that we're crossing at the moment, Bayley gets to
unless they actually acknowledge that she's a freaking heel.
Yeah, that'd be nice, right? Them actually doing their jobs. Bayley gets the win after the belly to Bayley. She celebrates with the title, but she grabs a mic. She starts to say, "Holy moly, you got," and then before she can even get into it, Sasha Banks' music hits.
Oh, dude, this was so emotional.
This was great.
Sasha was just on the brink of breaking down and crying pretty much the entire promo.
I loved it, though. You know what I loved about this? And I wouldn't have minded it because I love Sasha Banks, and Lord knows I know you do too. You're still driving this caboose. You were Sasha Banks fan day one. So if she was gonna come out and be the boss, I would have been cool with that. And there were elements about her that, she did bring the boss. But this was probably the most sincere and yet at the same time, the most aggressive promo I've ever seen from Sasha Banks.
Do you want to know why it came off as so aggressive?
Why is that?
Because she was compensating. Because she showed a real kind of vulnerable side of herself tonight, talking about how it was the match of the night and how it stole the show and how it was the best women's match ever. And even on that third line, her voice cracked and you could tell she was ready to break and just start crying and breaking down into happy tears. But then she, rather than kind of trying to casually bring it back and be but no, I'm better than you, she realized, oh crap, I'm being vulnerable. I'm the heel. I need to crank the volume up from, 3 to 15 rather than just going up to 10. And that's why it came off as so outwardly aggressive.
But I gotta tell you something, Ashton, for me, and I'm sure you would agree, I'm not saying we're in contention here, I think the vulnerability was needed. Because
no, I was honestly, I mean, was it sweet? Yes. Was it awesome to see her show that side? Yes. I wish you would have done it in kind of like one of those backstage promos, like what you would see with like a Renee Young or a JoJo or something like that, and not in front of the crowd, because to me, when she's in front of the crowd, she needs to be the boss.
But see, here's my contention with that. I feel like after the match they had NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, and you think about the post-match where she hugged Bayley and she congratulated her, like, you need to acknowledge that. And I feel like her vulnerability was her way of acknowledging that. I congratulate you. You were better than me.
I guess, I get it.
But see, this is what I like, though, because she didn't go into over the top, like, nobody believes in you, Bayley. I'm better this and that. Like, she didn't go into like her complex that I've seen her have with like Charlotte and all those kind of boss. She just said, no, you beating me, you were better than me for only 3 seconds. 3 seconds you were better than me. And when I lost the NXT Women's Championship, it gave me a point to prove. And, like, because she's still saying, like, I'm still the best. I didn't come here to put on good matches or to put smiles on their faces. I came here to be the best women's wrestler in NXT. And Bayley retorts, like, you don't think I don't have a point to prove either? I may be the champion, but, like, we went, we tore the house down. What do you want to do? You want to do it again? You want a rematch? Is that what you want? And she's like, it's more than that. It's about a message. I want to send you a message. And then Bayley kind of teasing it out, like, oh, well, what do you want? Do you want a stipulation? You want 2 out of 3? You want to do it next week, 2 weeks? When do you want to do it? And then Sasha's like, no. I don't want to beat you once. I don't want to beat you twice. I want to beat you again and again and again and again. And I love it. I love it because it's not her being like the typical boss promo that we hear. This is a vulnerable Sasha that's still the boss, but it's the boss coming with something to prove. And I really, really like that story because I feel like it needs to be that story now that the babyface is the champion, because Sasha doesn't have a leg to stand on now that she doesn't have the title, So I think it works in her favor. And then William Regal obviously comes out, and we already talked about his promo where he pretty much announces the 30-minute Iron Man match, and then the crowd just erupts with Iron Woman chants. Hell, they were erupting with Iron Woman chants even before William Regal came out.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that either, because to me, like, even if let the people that are watching TV that don't know find out when they actually announce it, rather than spoiling it like that.
Right. I mean, to be
like,
fair,
I even get annoyed with you if, like, you look at, like, a spoiler-free match lineup of NXT and you tell me what matches we're getting before they happen. So I'm just let me find out when the show intends for me to find out.
Yeah, and that's why, like, I'll still do it, but I stay more mum about it. Like, the night that Billie Kay and Peyton Royce were competing on the same show, I didn't say crap to you because I knew you were going to pop. But,
and it worked, and I was so excited about it, and it made it better for me, so I appreciate that. Thank you. And I feel like more people need to do that. And I feel like you would enjoy it more if you didn't know ahead of time, too.
I really don't give a crap. That doesn't really bother me. I'm not that anal about it. Wow. But, but yeah.
Fine then, John. Be that way.
I am. But yeah, I think for them it was more putting together context clues. They're like beating again and again and again in 2 out of 3 falls. So really, in a way, I would almost blame the girls, but not.
You know what I kind of wish they would have done here, though?
What's that?
I wish Sasha would have said, I spoke with William Regal in the back, and I'm going to get the opportunity to beat you again and again and again, because at NXT TakeOver, it's going to be me and you in a 30-minute Iron Woman match. Like, don't even worry about bringing Regal out. Let Sasha say that she spoke with Regal and let her be the person to announce it.
Yeah, actually,
I would have preferred that, because even then, like, they could have avoided the whole we're going to be the main event thing too, and just let that happen more organically.
Yeah, I have to agree with you all around on that. Yeah, I think it would fit more in line with Sasha's character, with her confidence and just her ability to rise to the next challenge and want the bigger and better challenge. And then I would have liked Bayley's ability, to retort and be like, well, I'll show you that I could go to distance or something like that. Although I will say the handshake they ended with, great. You know what, dude? I'm going to be honest. I got a little nervous, just a little bit with Sasha out there. Is this going to end with a cheap shot? Is this going to end with some kind of... No, they left it as they started it. a conversation, and they both left the table confident but peacefully, and I really, really like that. I'm like, you're creating a moment here. Don't sully it with a physical altercation. Stay the course, and they did, and I loved it. So there you go.
Yep, absolutely.
Great. All right.
Solid show, man. I really enjoyed this show from beginning to end. And actually, this is the first time in a while that my NXT notes went more than basically the equivalent of one page on my notepad, because I use a program for taking notes called Notepad++, and it allows you to keep a whole bunch of different files open at the same time, and it's good for coding and stuff like that. But regardless of that, I can fit 33 lines of notes on one page, and this show went to 34.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Lots
of stuff going on, man.
Yeah, man. Next segment, high spots and low shots. My low shot is Solomon Crowe. Didn't get the job done tonight. Even with a more aggressive edge, he still hasn't exactly picked the lock of his losing streak.
You know what, though? I'm not going to necessarily disagree with you making him your low shot, but I feel like there are more appropriate picks just because he had the character progression tonight.
He did. He did have the character progression tonight, but it's still, again, he's still like maneuvering everything. I think I'm hoping that this results in a heel turn. But we'll see what happens. But for now, yeah, he loses to Apollo Crews. He is my low shot. So who's your low shot?
Oh, you're going to love this. My low shot is the team of Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, because not only, as you said, were their dreams crushed tonight, but the commentators couldn't even be bothered to get their names right, even though they said them and the announcer got them right, the ring announcer.
Yeah, if I'm Gargano and Ciampa, I'm talking to somebody. I'm offended, and I go to the back and I'm like, what the hell was that? We got it right, because, there are freaking names. The announcer got it right because he must have actually, watched the product. And your own commentators.
Done his research.
And your commentators that are supposed to be the bridge between the in-ring action and the home audience, the network audience, keep botching the names. What the hell is this? Get your act together. They're obviously not going to have a blow up like that because they have more professionalism than I ever will.
Well, but, and not only that, but in the world of wrestling, you have a blow up like that and you get freaking blacklisted.
Well, that all comes back to the professionalism. You got to swallow it.
The last thing they want to do is burn the NXT bridge at this point.
Exactly. So very appropriate.
If I'm Gargano and Ciampa, I'm just like, all right, well, obviously we've been mispronouncing our names this entire time, and we're sorry for that, but if you're going to change our names on the spot like that, we would appreciate it if you would let us know. And if you want to change our names again, we really don't mind. We just really want that contract.
Yeah, there you go. I'll tell you what I'm going to do this week. My honorary high spot actually goes to two people, Nia Jax and Asuka. And I say that because they're ruffling the feathers of the more established women, namely Dana Brooke and Emma. I can actually foresee
either Dana Brooke or Emma actually acknowledge anybody in their promo, because I feel like they were more talking about Royce and Kay than Kanna or Asuka and Nia Jax.
See, I feel like they were talking about all these women, but given that Asuka and Nia Jax got the vignettes, I want them to be my focus. And here's my thing that I was getting ready to say. I could see Dana Brooke and Emma kind of pulling an Ascension, what they did with Hideo Itami, and spoiling Asuka's moment and interrupting her. I can totally see that next week.
Definitely.
So really, I want to put emphasis on Asuka even more than Nia Jax, because she's ruffling feathers already, and she just got a singular video package. Dana Brooke and Emma already feel threatened. So for that to create a splash without even physically being in the building, that warrants an honorary high spot. And for my legitimate high spot, you know what? I'm going to give it to Bayley. Bayley had a great return tonight. She won. Granted, it was against an independent worker in Sarah Dobson. Got to have a great moment with Izzy, and she held her own in the promo segment with Sasha to really sell the main event of NXT TakeOver Respect on October 7th. And so, yeah, Bayley's my high spot. She had an excellent night tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that being said, my high spot is Ty Dillinger, because Ty Dillinger. Do we really need to go further on this?
I don't think we do, my friends. So,
they call him the perfect 10 for a reason, people. Do your research.
God, that was aggressive.
That's the idea. That was almost as aggressive as me being angry about people picking on Baron Corbin for not doing enough moves earlier, which, seriously, get over yourselves.
Wow. Okay then.
Did you not hear my rant?
I did partially, admittedly. Yeah.
I know, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize. Apparently my internet was taking a dump earlier, so if I was cutting out a lot, that's, not really anything I can do about it, and I do apologize. But yeah, basically, people that talk about how Baron Corbin sucks because he doesn't know enough moves are marks, and I don't like the way that they think about wrestling.
Marks. Oh, classic you. But yeah, man, I mean, I agree. We've always had Baron Corbin's back. I enjoy the guy's work. I think people crap on him unnecessarily, the same way they used to crap on Corey Graves.
And that's all they have, too. All they have is that, he only knows 3 or 4 moves. Because he's so good at everything else. He throws one of the most legitimate-looking worked punches in the business right now. He's got an amazing-looking finisher. He sells great. He's got a great look. Admittedly, he needs to tighten up the midsection so that it doesn't look like he has a smiley face on his abdomen. But other than that, everything is going for him. And because the WWE has made this guy, and they didn't just pick him up off the indies somewhere, and they're using that to basically shove it in your face, people are salty about it, and I hate that because he's really good and he's worked these good matches with people. And I don't know if people heard me because of my cutting out earlier, but he worked that great match with Joe, and people are still saying that Joe carried the match.
Dude, I'm gonna join you in the foxhole here with my own incendiary statement. And I know this is probably gonna get us some flack, but people really need to get a grip on how the wrestling business works. Because people that are only like Baron Corbin only knows how to do 3 or 4 moves. It was pretty much the same moveset as Hulk Hogan, and we all know he was a nobody, right? I know it may not be the best example right now, given current events, but you can't erase the guy from wrestling history, and he is always going to be on wrestling's Mount Rushmore.
Wait,
so,
are you trying to say that Hulk Hogan was a nobody before he signed with WWF?
Wait, no, what I'm trying to say is, they're making fun of Corbin for his lack of moveset. I'm saying Hulk Hogan wasn't the most diverse either. Look at
okay,
what he did.
I mean, Corbin isn't Hulk Hogan.
He's not Hulk Hogan, but he could be an attraction. He could be big money. What I'm trying to say is you don't need to be a commercial success by having this diverse moveset. That's my point. Look at John Cena. And I know I always commend John Cena for trying new things in his repertoire. Doesn't always mean he should. But, he always tries to appease certain people. It ain't worth it. If you're making millions doing a fist drop, like an upgraded fist drop, and a Death Valley driver, you do your thing. It's not all about the moves.
Did you have anybody in mind when you said that, or was that just random?
When I said what exactly?
The fist drop and the Death Valley driver.
Well, he did John Cena because the 5-knuckle shuffle in the AA.
Wow! How did that not click for me? Yeah, you're so right.
It's it doesn't have to be this flashy, overly complex. Oh, look at the 8 rotation 450. Look, if it ain't making bank, it's beautiful to look at, but, it's whatever. Corbin has the ability to make money if they were to use a guy with his look right. And he was to refine his look a little bit so he doesn't have smiley belly button syndrome, whatever, that whole midsection thing. But yeah, Corbin's got a huge upside. I'm tired of people picking on him too, when I think he's got all the assets to be a great, pro wrestler and what it means to be a big time pro wrestler in 2015. People, they need to get a handle on it. If this was PWG or whatever, I'd be like, yeah, Corbin, he's certainly not going to go anywhere, but it's not. It's WWE. Do you ever think that this company's cared about movesets? No, it goes deeper than that. And I think Corbin more than compensates. So there you go on that. Is there anything else you want to say, Asher, before I take us home?
No, sir. Ty Dillinger's amazing.
Perfect 10. Praise be Ty Dillinger. The only time I'm going to say that on record, so everybody enjoy it. But anyway, guys, said...
Do you remember Billy Gunn's old finisher, the Gunslinger?
No.
It was basically just a swing bottom.
Oh, okay.
I think Ty Dillinger could adopt that.
I could see that, yeah. I still love your frog splash idea, though. Yeah, that I think is the best idea. But...
Well, I mean... I don't know if WWE would let him because he's a bigger guy and they don't like bigger guys flying.
Yeah, plus Blake already kind of does a frog splash in tandem with Buddy Murphy, so I don't know how that would work. So back to the drawing board, but just anything other than that knee is kind of where I'm getting at this point, but that's the only thing that needs to work out. But anyway, with that said, guys, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW.
And we went longer than our Lucha Underground rewatch.
There you go. The best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Here's a question for you. It's going to be a two-parter. A, what would your new finisher be for the Perfect 10 Ty Dillinger gimmick? And B, do you agree with our ceiling of the NXT Championship? Do you think this gimmick can go that far? And how would you get him there? I want to see some fantasy booking in the comments. I'd love to see that.
Just to be clear, that's his ceiling in NXT. You take him up to the main roster, and I think his ceiling is different.
Well, I'll be clear right now, and this isn't to, like, poke the bear or anything. This is just me being sincere. I think main roster, his ceiling is he'd be a mechanic. He'd be a really fine Intercontinental Champion. Nothing really more than that.
Yeah, pretty much every title except for the main title.
Yeah, I could never see him as a world champion on the main roster.
I could see him being like a Christian type.
Yeah, that's
or like
perfect,
a Jericho maybe.
It's a shame that we no longer have the World Heavyweight title in existence, because I could see him holding that with this gimmick.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we're talking out our ass here, because if he ends up on the main roster and gets Daniel Bryan levels of over, they're going to put the world title on him whether we think he can or not.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, how would you guys get him to the NXT world? I want to see some fantasy booking in the comments. What do you think about Sasha Bayley 30-minute Iron Man match, NXT TakeOver respect? Talk to us about it. I know we've got some big Sasha Banks supporters, some big Bayley supporters in our NXT comments, so I'd love to hear from both camps. Be sure to take the conversation over to Tweetoff, an amazing pro wrestling group on Facebook. Believe me, we actually support women's wrestling. We don't look to commodify it or cheapen it. We've got a lot of wrestling fans there, love the NXT women. If you don't like that, if you don't like being a part of big groups or getting constant notifications, because it is a very active group, you can go to the much quieter TWitWoW subreddit that Ashton created. There you can see all of our TWitWoW content, and you can also, create threads of your own that pose questions pertaining to wrestling, either to, him or myself, or to both of us, whatever your heart desires. And guys, we are going to round out the week strong, because Thursday we have got ROH All-Star Extravaganza preview and predictions. Friday, hopefully, we will have all ROH All-Star Extravaganza live reactions, permitting that no technical difficulties arise. Saturday, you're going to be getting Night of Champions preview and predictions. Going to be a very interesting discussion with the man Seth Rollins being double booked, both WWE World Heavyweight Championship match against Sting and a United States title defense against John Cena. And then Sunday, you're going to watch our reactions as it all goes down. Can Seth survive twice in one night? Who is going to be the mystery partner to negate Braun Strowman? All of these questions are going to be answered in the best way possible by two fans chilling, kicking back, and screaming our heads off when the times arise. We'd be honored if you'd join us, so TWitWoW's going to have a lot coming your way. Until then, guys, tune in and peace out.